Games, board games. I might be talking about action drafting, but I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this morning with a little bit of singing, and I guess I'll talk about this style of how to decide what you'll do for the next while. And by the next while, I basically mean the next thing you'll do. Action drafting is how you might choose. There's a bunch of tiles or a bunch of cards, and you might take one, and that thing that you take will decide what will be done. Action drafting, it's what I'm talking about. Action drafting, I'm not gonna shout. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. 10 a.m. ish UK time, busy beats and board game blether. Hopefully you are aware of that. And today I'm going to be pondering another mechanic, action drafting. Should it be more popular? Why is it less popular than worker placements? And I'll answer all the other questions going on. So firstly, before I get into the regular sections, just to talk about what action drafting is. Action drafting, as you've just heard, is when you've got a bunch of cards or a bunch of tiles and you decide what you want to choose. You take the thing and then that's what you're about to do. Action drafting is very similar, but emotionally different from worker placement. In worker placement, rather than taking a card, you would place a little worker, a maple, onto the card. And on worker placement, that means that all the things always need to be the same. But frankly, in Puerto Rico, it could have been a worker placement. And the distinction is, in terms of how the game actually operates, there's no distinction. But then with action drafting, you can have different systems. You can have things coming out randomly. You can have different things coming out each turn. You could have a more modular setup rather than it's all needing to be on a board. It does allow, and you could have things refresh. But we'll get into all that in just a moment. First of all, I'm going to talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights. Recent highlights, playing games and other delights. Recent highlights. Yesterday, I did bits of work. I told people about my Kickstarter. There's now 33 people following my Kickstarter, I want to say. And yes, if you've not followed that, please do follow it, and I will actually try and find it right now. I went to Haringey to play some board games, which was absolutely delightful. I played No Thanks. I played Lady's Choice, which was a lot less offensive than I imagined it would be. I'm almost slightly disappointed. And it was, good fun, but I think it would be more fun with like maybe 4 or 5 players, get people playing it multiple times, get a bit of table talk. Project L, a nice sense of satisfaction, very pleasing, putting little tiles and building up stuff. Let me actually just show you a few of the things very quickly. So, share the screen, so you can see what I mean. Share the screen. Here we go. So, No Thanks. It's one of my absolute favorite games. Take cards, or rather, you might say no thanks. If you don't want a card, you put a token on it, it goes around the table, and maybe someone else takes it and takes all the coins that have been put onto it. Eventually, you'll run out of coins to say no thanks, so you will have to take something. Or you might be like, okay, I don't want to run out of coins, so I'm going to take these so that gives me more bidding power. If you have a run, for example, 31 and 30, each card is worth negative points, but instead of 31 and 30 being worth 61, it's only worth negative 30, because when you've got to run, the lowest number is all that counts. And then this brings in a bit of asymmetric desires, and so it might be like, okay, one person is okay with having the 26, would even give them a point because they've got the 27. For everyone else, that is negative 26 points, and so then they don't mind having it, but they're still going to pay coins to not take it because they know that everyone else will pay coins to not take it, and then they'll get a bunch of coins. This is a really nice game, all about the people at the table. Projectile, pleasing and satisfying, taking those little things and putting them into the double-layered player boards and building up these tiny little puzzles, and each time you make a puzzle, you get a new tile to use for future puzzles, and then you're growing up and bigger puzzles. It's quite cool, and you feel a sense of satisfaction and delight. Never has an amazing payoff, but it's all really cool. Fuse London gave me this game, which is Cactus Stack, and in Cactus Stack you're growing a cactus and making it bigger and bigger but it's got the like Uno style mechanisms of some cards have special abilities. Reminds me slightly of Rhino Heroes. It reminds me slightly of Librium. Very much its own thing. Really cool. Well done. And so I enjoyed that. And these are all games that I've enjoyed in the past wee bit. And so I'm going to then get rid of that screen. So I enjoyed those. I also enjoyed a couple of games that I personally made. A game about quickly matching words to pictures, but never words to words or pictures to pictures, and a game about stuffing balloons as a team, but without talking, but it's a card game, there are no actual balloons. And so in that one, I think the first time we played, we got to 5, second time we played, we got to 9. It's like, yeah, we did well. We didn't like quite manage to beat the game, but it was pretty good. We feel good about ourselves. And yeah, that was the main highlight of yesterday, getting out. And I was talking about my whole Kickstarter. So now if you look onto it, I'm going to say that there's 37 followers, even better. So if you're interested in a game about cute comical creatures and trying to identify them after some makes noises, and if you back for £1, you'll even get the Wee Whimsical Creature PDF as well. So please back that, and yeah, I hope that people will have lots of fun with it. I mean, it's good. 37 is a decent number. It's not amazing. Yeah, I don't know. I think I need to publicize it a wee bit more, but we'll see how we get on. Anyway, let's crack on with brilliant thing. What's the little thing which is brilliant? The main topic, action drafting, choosing things, the element of choice. Not just saying you have to do this one thing, but having a choice between this and that. A choice offers you agency. In day-to-day life, I have a choice of whether to pick up this bottle this way or a little millimeter to the left. Where should I hold it, here or here? Now, this kind of thing is a fairly meaningless choice, whether I hold it here or here. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. The choice to drink, the choice to say what you want. Now, action drafting is a choice, and you're also denying someone else a choice, which is really interesting. I mean, in a game, it's designed so that all of these choices are discrete. There's a meaningful difference between all these things. And sometimes you want to do one of them over the other because it's going to be the thing that really gets you points or sets up the engine or whatever. And then that comes to denial. Why is denial a brilliant thing? I mean, it doesn't feel great when you are denied something, but the feeling of empowerment, the feeling of, I take this and no one else can have that. it seems a bit, I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a great thing for humanity to take pleasure in denying other people resources, but but it is undeniable to say that yes, when we say this is ours, this is mine, I have this, and you can't have this, at least not for this turn, or it might be, oh, this I wasn't sure if I would be able to get this, but I'm able to get it, hooray! And that's a lovely thing that comes about when you have the higher stakes of potentially denying something, which of course brings me to action drafting. So, action drafting, there's a whole bunch of stuff, and these things are actions. These actions might be defined by cards, or they might be on tiles. I mean, theoretically, they could be cubes or dice but it's not drafting something that you then keep for a long time. This is not something like Dominion or Star Realms, which have their own sorts of drafting where you're taking things from a shared pool, or that's separate, because this is action drafting where you're just drafting for that turn. They're like, okay, what am I going to do just for the next turn? And I think that's the key thing. Like, the key elements are there's a limit. So once you take it, other people can't choose it. So there's that denial. And then the other key feature is that it is an action. So it's not about an engine building, something that you can reproduce over and over and over. It's something that you just do for that one turn, if that makes sense. Now, it's really interesting, as a side note, that worker placement, this action drafting has 201 entries, worker placement, 3,030 entries. Why is that? I mean, it feels like fundamentally just sticking a little worker, saying my worker goes out and does this thing, whether to collect the resources in Stone Age or to go fishing in Agricola. I mean, sure, in some of them it makes sense that once someone's done it, then no one else can. There's a finite amount of pigs, I guess, or a finite amount of fish. But if you go and you do some knitting, if you do some breeding, why does that mean that no one else can breed? Why does that, if you go and expand your house, why does that mean that no one else can expand your house? It's obviously there with action drafting or worker placement, there is not a great thematic connection either way, but with the worker placements, it feels like there's more of a, okay, I'm sending my worker, I'm getting my little person to go out and do this thing, and that's what they are doing. And that then also allows you to have multiple rounds, and people place things, and then you worker placement, it allows you to grow the number of actions that you can take each turn. But this isn't about worker placement. This is about action drafting. And hello, yes, it is indeed stretching time. Yo, yo, yo. So let's go on and go through the little sections that I wanted to talk about. So firstly, how was it defined? If I look at the book that I've got in front of me, players select from an assortment of actions in a shared pool. The available actions are limited in quantity, and once the player has chosen an action, it may not be chosen again. Exactly like the text has been kept 100% the same. And now, I think this is a fairly clear definition, and I think it's been generally upheld on Board Game Geek. But having said that, there are a couple of games that didn't quite seem to fit, but for the most part, this is a far clearer definition than the first one. I think this is going to be, yeah, generally the way forwards. So, how does action drafting impact a game? Well, it brings about, it makes it brings about a form of interaction. It brings about a form of negative interaction, a form of denial. It means that when we think about what we want to do, we might not just be thinking about what is best for us, but also what would be best for the other people. And at this point, hey, no one else has any wheat. So maybe I just take this space to monopolize all the wheat, even though I don't really want it. But that's going to give me a massive leg up and allow me to keep control of this game. So action drafting, it forces you to put yourself in other people's shoes. And in games that could be incredibly solitaire, it's easy to underestimate the amount of denial. Now, this can be massively negative in terms of emotion. Some people will go away feeling, oh, you took the thing that I wanted. And I've heard stories of someone at a table where they said, you took the thing that I wanted. Could you do a different thing? But that's the point of the game. If you're playing one of these games, it is about that denial. It's about like, well, good. I took the thing that I wanted, and if you really wanted it, then even better. Because we're not trying to get the best possible thing for you. I'm trying to get the best possible thing for me, and you're trying to get the best possible thing for you. And then it is this little knife fight. And let me block that user. Cool. So let's look at some of the games that it's been in. Firstly, Puerto Rico, with these little tiles, and if we look at what they've got, each turn, the game is governed by these roll cards. Each turn, each player takes one of these roll cards. So you might have the mayor, who allows you to bring in new colonists, craftsman, which allows you to get goods. The trader allows you to sell goods. The settler gives you a plantation. The builder gives you a building. The captain gives you goods delivery. The prospector just gives you a doubloon. And interestingly, in Puerto Rico, the denial is a bit lessened. So if you choose the mayor, you're not the only person to get colonists. It just means you get one more. If you choose the craftsman, you just get one more good. The trader, you just get one more coin. The settler, you can choose a quarry, which gives you different resources later on. The builder, you save a coin. The captain, you will get one more victory point. And the prospector, you just get one double. So there's not a massive sense of denial in Puerto Rico. But despite that, the denial runs through the course of the game. So when you're loading up the ships and then you use up spaces and then only certain goods can go on, and if you get there before someone else, boom, well, haha, now you can't sell the things you want. And you've got all these special buildings and you want to grab them for their point. You also want to grab them for their special ability. Boom. drafting. And okay, so yeah, turns out that my computer is kind of really messing up. I do apologize for that. So you do have, for this mechanism to work, you need to have different options that people want. You have to have block user. You have to have a reason why someone would prefer to take wheat over pigs. You have to have a reason why someone would prefer to do this over that. And so you need to have a certain level of different possible actions. And so there's no way that you can have action drafting in the simplest game. Action drafting is not a system that I could see being brought into a mass market game. And yeah, that feels like almost a design challenge now that I've said it. But fundamentally, yeah, you need to have games that say you can do this or you can do this totally different thing, and if you do this totally different thing, then that means that no one else can do it, and maybe they will be upset. And there's a reason why you really want to do the first thing, and there's a reason why you want to do the second thing. Then you've got to ponder which of these things you really want to do. Now, something like Yamatai actually, or Citadels, feels like almost the simplest form of the action drafting mechanism, potentially. I was really excited when I saw a game by Haba on the list, but then I watched the reviews, and it feels like it's been misidentified, mislabeled rather. And so I do think that it massively impacts which games would it fit in. It would only fit in games that have a certain complexity level of certain types of actions that you can choose between. That is a prerequisite for it to work, and it brings in a certain level of negative emotions, a certain level of glee, almost spite. Hello, Lloyd. It says it's lovely to see you, but surely if you lessen the actions needed, you could mass market it. I feel Citadels, if it was like 2 actions shorter, could, or do you mean literally if it was only 2 actions, could easily be given to newbies? I mean, you need to have at least as many actions as there are players. So if you want to have a 4-player game, you need to have at least 4 actions. I guess. Yeah, like, do you? Do you really? Because now I'm thinking, you know what? You could also do something like in a lot of roll-in rights where lead player chooses one of these and then everyone else chooses one of the others. That would be interesting. Kind of like how in, I don't know, Dice Hospital Emergency Roll, or so many other games. Lead player chooses one die, everyone else chooses any of the remainder. So that could be a thing in action drafting. So I'm like, okay, I choose this one. And now I'm thinking about it, that's an interesting type of game to draw parallels. Doesn't Love Letter count? No, Love Letter, I don't see how you think that that's action drafting. I mean, there's no central pool of stuff to take from. The key thing about action drafting is you're drafting from a central pool that's available to everyone. So by taking it, you're denying it to the other players. And there's none of that happening in Love Letter. Whereas, interestingly, Citadels, I just wanted to bring that up because Citadels, even though it's not a public pool, it's a hidden pool which goes round, which brings in now a little bit of uncertainty. What has that first player taken? Especially since the first player gets rid of one of the cards. So there's one less thing each turn. And yeah, but sure, I think that combining action drafting in its typical sense, where players take a turn to take a thing, you do need, I'm going to say, about as many options as there are players. And so if they are to be meaningfully different, that means that for, let's say, what do you need to have a mass market game? The truth is that you need a wide range of player count, at least up to 5. And so yeah, 5 actions, 5 meaningfully different actions, that feels like potentially a challenge, but then again, they don't need to be super, super different. It could just be, oh, this one takes more. You could have better versions of other actions, but then it becomes uninteresting. And so then what you might end up with is something like Yamatai, where actually some of the things you choose have 2 different actions. So it's like, okay, this is a worse version of that, but this is a better version of that. And this combination means that actually I really want to go for this particular thing. And while I'm talking, hopefully my laptop has restarted. And thank you for the affirmation. I do massively appreciate it. Lots of love. There we go. And I'm back on the laptop. There we go. So, yes, Puerto Rico, a problematic game, but in terms of its theme and in terms of brushing over slavery and colonialism and everything, but definitely one that set a lot of, it established a lot of precedents. Now, Citadels, which we've talked about, all these different roles, and this is really interesting, getting into the heart of action drafting, because it combines that with hidden roles. And then with the hidden roles, it's like, okay, I really want to be the character that steals some money, or I really want to be the character that makes the blue building. But if people know that they're going to steal from the blue building player, then I maybe don't want to take that, because there are some targets, and you don't target individual players as the robber or whatever, you target roles. And so you might be trying to target a particular player, but you just target whoever took that role, and then hopefully that role's in the game, but it might not even be. And so, yeah, there's something really interesting where this feels really flexible. So Dice Hospital, I'm not sure if this technically is action drafting, even though it's listed as such. You're drafting the hospital wards, you're drafting your doctors that you can use for later, but it's not an action that you do right then and there. And these things stay with you. That feels like it changes it slightly. It feels like it turns it into traditional, just straight up drafting. El Grande, this is really nice. So you play El Grande, one of the best games ever. Honestly, like, it's just so good. You've got your own cards, and then at the end each turn, you've got these little special cards that do things, and then you take turns to take them. But if you want a better card, then you might have to do a worse thing during that turn, because doing a worse thing during that turn might allow you to get first choice of the cards. And then it's like, okay, how good are the cards? How much do I care about these cards? how much do I care about doing the better action? Okay, I'm going to choose that card. And again, that's really interesting, where action drafting, it can almost have a prequel to it. Like, you go into it, you can have, I'm struggling with the words today, but you can sort of ease yourself into it, rather than just the choice of when exactly you draft can be played around with. It doesn't need to be going ground in a loop, and then, okay, now someone gets the last thing, and then it goes one round more. And so, like in Puerto Rico, where there's like maybe there might be 5 options for 4 players, and then the first player gets the one that's remaining at the end, and then the next player gets to be the starting player. And so it cycles round, and that's a fairly simplistic way of doing it. Just each player takes a turn in order. I mean, that's a nice way. But then if you want to ramp it up even more, you could say, okay, now we're bidding on the order in which we draft these things. Now we're bidding using cards that are also tied to actions, which is really exciting. And you've got Yamatai, which, if you look at the top, here are a whole bunch of different things that you might be wanting to do. And you might be turning things into coins, or turning resources into ships, and fundamentally they all play around with a very small set of economies. Like, there's maybe 3 different things that you're navigating. It's been a long while since I played this one, but fundamentally all of these are giving you different ways to interact with the engine. And so, going back to my key questions, how versatile is it? Which games will it fit? What will it work well with? It works well with, it is inherently very mathematical, very strategic. Mathematical might be the wrong word, but it's all about weighing up options. It's all about, do I want to do this or do that? It gives the game a sense of strategy. It would not fit into a party game. It would not fit into a dexterity game. It would not fit into games where you want to know clearly what to do. And I'm not sure it fits perfectly into a family game, just because for younger people at the table, there might be bad feelings. But it can be brilliant, and any form of action drafting, it gives you something to consider. It gives you something to revel in, something to scheme about, something to hope for. You hope that no one takes the thing you want. You hope when you don't have any options and it's like, well, any of them are as good as anything, well, then you get to think about your opponents. And yeah, it does bring about the spite. Now, have I used this in any of my games? Not in any of my published games. I would, however, I'd have used it in a couple of prototypes, and both Dice Farmer, which was a game that I made with Alicat Games in mind, and also I believe I made a game about, no, I think that's actually it. Oh no, yes, I made a game which was intended to be like a Grit Club, but as a card game. And that's the thing. Like, action drafting, you don't need the wood. You just have the cards, and so it can be cheaper, and you can have more surprises. You can have more cards coming out. You're not limited to what's on the board. Sure, worker placement, you can put your cards on, your tokens on the cards, but at that point, why aren't you just picking up the cards? And I think it will be interesting to do a compare and contrast when I get to worker placement. But yeah, I think, Lloyd, if you're still there, I would be interested to know genuinely. My questions are never rhetorical I genuinely, even though Love Letter might not be work action drafting, what makes you, what's the resemblance? what makes you think, what makes you feel like it is, because that would be interesting to talk about. Also, yeah, like the whole notion of what would a mass market action drafting game look like. And as I sit here and then I ponder, yeah, at what point can we say that rolling the dice and taking the die and then using that one die, is that a form of action drafting? Because yeah, I'm going to tag Isaac Shalev and Geoff Engelstein because I think that's an interesting question. Like that feels like a form of action drafting where you are taking the thing and no one else can do that, but it's not listed. None of those games are listed on Board Game Geek as action drafting games. And it does make me wonder, like, is it important for everyone to be taking a turn? Because if I am denying something, to deny, if it's typical where you're going around the table, then I'm essentially only denying it to the person on my left. Well, yes, I'm denying it to everyone, but I'm focusing on them. So it might be like, well, that person really wants that, but hopefully someone before them will get it. So it kind of almost increases the spitefulness in a way. But yeah, maybe a more global thing. One person takes one of these action cards, everyone else gets to do one of these action cards. That feels like a really strong thing. Lloyd says, I'm still here. The idea for action drafting is that your options on the turn are limited to what you have in hand. No, it's okay, yes, I see how, yes, in Love Letter, you're choosing between two cards in hand and you have to choose out of them which action to take. But fundamentally, that's not the heart of action drafting. If we go back to the if we look back at the fundamental description, which is it's a shared pool. That is the key thing. It's a shared pool. You choose. There's some things, and you choose one, and they're limited in quantity. So once you've chosen an action, it may not be chosen again by another player. I think that's the key thing. I'm actually going to edit that. No, actually, I'm not going to bother. But yeah, it's basically, it might not. So you are denying it from other people. That, I think these words, the shared pool, is the key thing. Because it's not, otherwise it would be just like, I don't know, any game where you've got choices of which action to do. Project L, okay, you've got these different actions. And yeah, Magic the Gathering, you've got a certain number of cards. Which of these cards do you play? But fundamentally, the point is that you choose a thing, you get to do that thing right now, and you deny it from the other players. And I think that's the key thing. Yeah. Thank you for fully accepting that it's wrong. I mean, fundamentally, if like we could just go on Board Game Geek and say, yeah, it doesn't have that thing, so clearly no one agrees. But I do like what you're saying, but I think that when you talk about mechanisms, it's not just about what happens at the table, what happens with the cards, with whether it's a pool. It's also about how does that impact what the players are doing? How does this impact the experience? And fundamentally, how it impacts my agency, how it impacts my choices, is that suddenly I'm looking at everyone else and I'm thinking, not only what do I want, but what do they want? Because if I take that, then it's going to be bad for you. And I'm thinking, hey, Lloyd over there really wants to use the bake a cookie. And I've got a lot of cookies to eat, so I could be do the bake a cookie, or I could do the eat a cookie. But you know, Lloyd only has one cookie. So like if Lloyd's had to do the eat cookies action or sell cookies, then Lloyd would be out of luck. So Lloyd's all about the getting cookies. So I'm going to take the bake a cookie action just so that Lloyd's out of luck. Ha ha ha. And it's that kind of, I don't want to call it spite, but yeah, that kind of glee, that kind of thinking about other people, that kind of, yeah, I think for it to be a draft, you have to be choosing something, and the act of choosing denies it to the other players. And I think that's the key thing. And so, yeah, for a mass market thing, it does feel like the simplest way would be to have maybe 3 cards. You choose one of the actions, everyone else chooses one of the remaining 2. And what's the game? Because then, to have even 3 fundamentally different actions, it feels like now you need to have some sort of, yeah, I'm not saying it can't sell hundreds of thousands or even millions, but there's a certain level of complexity because there have to be, what can you do with different types of actions if they are fundamentally different, and if it's not just a no-brainer. I mean, you can't just have get 3 money, get 2 money, get 1 money. That would be obviously a rubbish game, because then it's a no-brainer. So there has to be a level of consideration, and I think that brings a certain weight to it. So yeah, it's been interesting thinking about that thing. But yeah, let's wrap up at this point, and I hope that you've enjoyed this show. As always, if you've got any questions, then please ask me. But now is my turn to ask you a question. It is the question of the day. Question of the day. It's a little question before we go on our way. Question of the day. So my question of the day is, when was the last time that you managed to have something that you weren't sure you were able to get? So something that you were like, oh, I thought that was going to run out, or maybe, oh, I was at the supermarket and I found this and it's amazing. Like, what was the last time that you were delighted by having an option be available to you, if you know what I mean? I mean, honestly, like, I guess yesterday when I was playing some games, and then I went to play games and I took a bunch myself, and Blaze took along Project Hell, which was like, yeah, brilliant. I wanted to play that, and having someone else bring that option, that's really cool. I'm delighted by that. And that's interesting because that's almost like the opposite of action drafting. Rather than someone else taking it and me not having it, it's someone else bringing it, and then we all have it, which is amazing. I wonder if that could be a game mechanism. Like, everyone puts in one thing and then you sort of spread the delights, like bringing things to a party or something. But when was the last time that you had an option available? We're like, oh, that's lovely. Lloyd says, Ricochet robots. Oh, that's the massively, like, it can go from like up to as many players as can actually see the board, and then you're all solving this puzzle simultaneously. I've not played it, but it sounds really good. Lloyd says, I've been trying to get a copy for like half a year, and to no avail. And then it suddenly appeared upon eBay. Yeah! I love the enthusiasm. Now, I hope you have loads of fun with that. Yeah, enjoy that. And so, yeah, for now, enjoy your Rikishi robots. I hope that you'll have a wonderful day. And what are you up to? Over to you. What are you up to? You can share, but only if you want to. Are you up to something fun and frivolous? Something super serious? Is there something you want to share? Please share. I promise that I care. And I know that I say that every day, but I genuinely do. I was going to do a lot of postage with the help of Chris, but Chris, for health reasons, can't come over today, which is very sad. I am going to see if I can ask Chris to maybe guide me through it, because there's some technical stuff on the computer that I can't quite sort out myself. And yeah, if Chris is able to do that, then brilliant. And I would like to post a lot of stuff if possible. What else? Yeah, that's pretty much the bulk of what I feel like. Oh, I also have to rewrite the rules of Drawn Together and get that sent to a big company that's looking at it. I am super excited by that. So for those who don't know, Drawn Together, this is the cat versus eye sheet, and you take turns colouring in a thing. And so yeah, that's what I'm up to, and a bit of house admin, just trying to, yeah, this evening I'm not going out or anything, so yeah, we'll like go out to have a quick walk, but I'm not going out, if you know what I mean. So bits of tidying up, cleaning up, whatever. And let me block that user. Lloyd says, I'm just having a normal boring day, but thank you for the show today. Thank you for watching. It's been a delight to have you join. So to recap and wrap up before we finish up. Recap and wrap up. So fundamentally, yeah, all of this stuff really matters, and we were pondering action drafting. I talked about Puerto Rico, how you've got these different actions, but then really, oh, sorry, because my computer, oh, cool, it's still on the same page. You've got the different rules, but you're not doing as much denying as you do in other action drafting games. Citadels is interesting because it's mixing action drafting with hidden role, and you don't know who takes each thing. Al Grande is really interesting because it's got the actions at the end, but then it's got the whole almost bidding before you get to that. So you've got to value whether you really want the second choice or the first choice or the last choice is okay with you, versus do you want a better other actions this round, because some of the actions are from your hand, some of the actions are from the table, and yeah, there's a lot going on there. We talked about Yamatai with all the bits on the board, and saying that, yeah, there needs to be something of a system of moving things around. And we talked about roll and writes, like something like Ganstron Clever or Dice Hospital, emergency roll. Is that action drafting? Because it feels like it is. But I'm going to ask the writers, Geoff Engelstein and Isaac Shalev, to see what they say. But yeah, it's definitely got me thinking about the way that you might be able to use that sort of roll and write. One person chooses, everyone else chooses one of the remainder, to make a more accessible action drafting game, because then you've got fewer things to sort of ponder in the middle, which should be interesting. Yeah, and for sure, it's all about the glee, the denial, and yeah, that's my recap and wrap up. So for now, lots of love, and that's the end of the show. I think if you want to check me out, stuffbybez.com, stuffbybez.bigcartel.com. I will be redoing my website. I was hoping to do it next week, but probably won't happen now. Maybe the week after that. Middle of July, it will definitely be done. Twitch, YouTube, Stuff by Bez, stuffbybez.com/Discord. And if you want to find out what I'm streaming about or where I am in general, stuffbybez.com/streams. Tomorrow will be a quick show on my way to playtest. Saturday, I will be going to a big playtest event in Croydon. If you're nearby, please do come along. And yeah, I'll do some sort of show about that event. And on Sunday, yep, I'll be seeing Pearl. And then I think on Monday, Oh no, it's on Tuesday. I'm meeting Ben Downton, which is super exciting. So, Ben is the person who designed and published Micro Dojo. But for now, lots of love. Share, spread the word. Thank you everyone for being here. And the only thing left to say at this point, oh, Higgsate, I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, if that kind of that's no, that's not a good healthy relationship. I mean, don't even think about leaving. Come on, I've got other things to do. You've got things that you can do. You can survive without me. And yeah, but you knew that I was here. Um, just got here. And good on you for having a Ukrainian refugee. Good on you for hosting, and maybe see you another day. But yeah, why I keep blocking a user who keeps sharing? Yeah, YouTube seems harder to manage. Anyway, lots of love, and of course, bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye, bye bye. And now it's time to go.